Hey guys, it's Christy with Christy's Custom Creations. And with Valentine's Day coming up, I have decided to show everyone how to make this beautiful Peekaboo Valentine's Day tumbler. In this tutorial today, I'm going to be using Tumblerpoxy epoxy. It is a beautiful epoxy that cures crystal clear. We are going to get started with a prepped cup that I have spray painted a magenta pink color, and I'm going to use approximately 5 milliliters or so of epoxy. You really don't even have to use that much if you kind of heat your cup up just a little bit at first, but I'm going to smear a very, very thin layer of this epoxy onto this prepped tumbler. As you can see, as I spread the epoxy, I'm pressing pretty hard on the tumbler so that I can stretch this little bit of epoxy just as far as we can take it. You don't want to use too much epoxy because it can kind of cause your glitter to roll. You don't need much to get the glitter basically to stick to the cup. So, like I said, super thin layer here. Now it is time for my favorite part, glitter. This glitter here is called Beartooth Magic, and it is by Glitter Bay Glitters. And we're just going to sprinkle it on our tumbler here. It's a pretty chunky glitter, but it's got some smaller pieces in it, so it helps fill in any little gaps that may try to show through the chunks. But just get a good layer of glitter on there. You don't have to use this same color glitter. Any pink, red, Valentine's Day-ish type color that you want, you can use. I like to get a good base layer, and then I take a piece of wax paper, and you don't really need a very big piece. Just take your wax paper and pat down any of the little glitter shards that may be sticking up, because you want your glitter to lay really smooth, or else it's going to be crazy under epoxy. It's gonna stick up everywhere. So once I do an initial press down on the glitter, I come back and I hit it with another coat of glitter, just making sure I've got really good coverage and don't have any little gaps. And I'm gonna take my wax paper again and just press that glitter down. Alright, and as you can see, our glitter is laying pretty flat. Look how pretty this glitter is. So any excess glitter that you have, I like to collect it in a little paper plate, and after I get done with it, I just tap it back off into my container so that it can be used again later. Don't want to waste it. And if you would like to see a tutorial on how I make those Papermate ink joy pens that are spinning in the background, you can click on the link here, and I will also link it down in the description box. Okay, so I have let the tumbler here spin for about 3 hours or so, and it is now time to put a coat of epoxy over our glitter. And I am, again, using Tumblerpoxy epoxy. It goes on like butter. I mean, or like warm butter, really. It's super, super smooth going on, which that is a fact that I just love about Tumblerpoxy. You don't have to really fight the epoxy to get it to smoothly lay over the glitter. Another awesome thing about Tumblerpoxy epoxy is micro bubbles. So even if you're like a super aggressive stirrer, which I am because I'm a very impatient person, when you put the epoxy on the cups, there's virtually almost no micro bubbles. But I'm going to take my torch here, and I'm going to go ahead and torch the cup, make just super fast passes. You don't want to burn the epoxy, popping any little bitty micro bubbles that may be on there. Alright, so I let that coat of epoxy spin for about 4 hours, and I'm going to do a second coat of epoxy over the glitter just to ensure that it's really, really smooth. We are going to be spray painting over this absolutely stunning glitter, which it hurts my heart so much to do so, but it's so worth it in the long run. But as I was saying, we are going to be spray painting over it. So we want the epoxy over the glitter to be really smooth, because you don't want any bumps or anything like that showing underneath the under the spray paint, because it just won't look good. So I'm going to do the same thing using Tumblerpoxy again and spread it over our cup, get it nice and smooth, and then torch it, making sure any little micro bubbles are gone and making sure that the epoxy lays really smooth. And for both of these layers of epoxy, the first and second layer, I used about 20 mLs. Alright, so I let my cup spin for about 8 hours or so, and until it was fully dry, and look how beautiful that shine is under the Tumblerpoxy epoxy. Before we start putting on any decals or anything like that, we want to clean up the rim. With chunky glitter, you get little shards that stick up over the rim of the cup, so I just take a craft knife or an X-Acto knife and I cut the glitter around the top of the cup. And notice I'm cutting away from me. I had a few comments on my last video where I was cutting towards me, and a bunch of people like freaked out about it. So I am taking your advice if you are tuning in, and I am cutting away from me. So after I cut off the shards on the top, take some sandpaper and just sand it so that it's nice and smooth there. Get rid of any little bumps that you have going on. And with the Tumblerpoxy, it's got the epoxy over the glitter so smooth everywhere except for the bottom, just the edges on the bottom and then the edges around the top. The rest of it's so smooth you don't have to sand it at all. So just hit the bottom and the top with the sandpaper, but don't go too hard. If you go too hard, then you're going to sand down to the glitter, and you don't want to damage the glitter because it'll look bad. So there we go. Now I want to give my cup a good bath, and I use Dawn dish soap to clean it. Just wash it real good. You don't need to clean out the inside just yet. I do that at the end of my videos, and I actually have a video showing how exactly I clean up my cups after I'm done with them. It's called Clean Up Your Rim or something like that, and I will put it down in the description box, and I'll also link it right here, and you can click on the link here to see it. Now it's time to put some decals on my tumblers so that we can start the whole peekaboo effect that we are going for. And it really doesn't matter for this step what color vinyl you choose, because basically we're just using it as a stencil. So I'm gonna go ahead and weed my image, and these are just some random hearts that I found. I found some on Google and found some on Etsy, and the saying up here in the top left, it says all you need is love, and I found that on Etsy. So just weed all the little bits and pieces out. And another thing too, I cut this with my Silhouette Cameo 4, and I love my Silhouette Cameo 4. It cuts such fine lines, and it's always very precise anytime I use it. I also want to mention that all of the tools and supplies that I used in this video, I will have a link to everything down in the description box so that you can check it out if you would like to pick any of it up for yourself. Okay, so now that we've got our saying and our hearts weeded out, it's time to put some transfer tape on here. And the way I like to put it on, since it's a bigger piece, I like to cut a piece that's just slightly larger than what I'm working with. I cut a small strip off the end of it and lay it down onto my vinyl. Once I get it down there, I peel the rest of it off and push it down, push the transfer tape down as it smooths out on the vinyl. And this squeegee tool is awesome. It's got like a felt into it, so it doesn't scratch my vinyl or anything like that. I'll link that below as well. So we're just gonna cut out all of these little individual hearts. After we get done cutting out the hearts, I'm going to trim around our cute little saying and just place it on the cup. It's not a saying that has to be like super measured out or anything. It's kind of a funky font to it, so it's really cutesy. So you can get just kind of eyeball it and put it on there, and then I take my squeegee and smooth it down, ensuring that I've got it on there really good, no air bubbles or anything like that. And then I'm going to peel the transfer tape off, leaving our lettering behind. So now for the hearts, I'm just literally randomly going to put these hearts all over the cup. They're such cute little hearts, and I chose just a bunch of different ones. And like I said, we're just going to put them randomly all over the entire cup. I've tried to really speed this section up because it's kind of a really long section because I wasn't really sure exactly where I wanted to put all these hearts at. So yeah, just be super random about it. Like I mentioned before, it really doesn't matter what color vinyl you use because we're just going to spray paint over it and peel it all off here in just a little bit for our peekaboo effect. For this next part, I took my tumbler outside and I sprayed just along the top and the bottom of my tumbler with a light pink. It's a matte, I believe this one was Krylon, and then in the middle I went with a flat white Rust-Oleum spray paint. And like I said, I just did kind of like an ombre effect. I've got pink at the top and the bottom, and then white in the middle. Okay, so I don't know about you, but this part of a peekaboo tumbler is so incredibly satisfying to me. Peeling the vinyl away and revealing that beautiful glitter underneath. So basically, I've got my weeding tool, and I'm going to very, very carefully pick this vinyl off of the cup. You want to be super careful and make sure that you only touch the vinyl with your weeding tool. Otherwise, you're going to scrape the paint off of the cup. Okay, now our cup is ready for some epoxy and a little bit of extra glitter. Alright, so I have mixed up about 10 milliliters or so of Tumblerpoxy epoxy, and we're just going to put a super light coat of epoxy on the tumbler because we're going to use this really light coat of epoxy to add a little bit of like a really light but chunky sparkle to it. So, like I said, a really light layer. As you can see, the Tumblerpoxy goes on so smooth. I love it. You don't have to fight with it at all. It just goes on really nicely. But super thin layer here. I didn't even use all the epoxy that I had mixed up. I set, a lot of it off to the side because I just wanted this thin layer, very similar, a little bit thicker than when you lay glitter down for your initial coat, but it's still a pretty thin layer. Alright, now I am going to take my blowtorch again, and I'm going to make a super fast pass across the cup, getting rid of any micro bubbles that may be trying to hang out there, and just making sure the epoxy is nice and smooth. Alright, so this first glitter is called Paradise. It is by Glitter Bay Glitters, and the second glitter that I just showed is called Funky Town. It's by Berry Humble. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do here, so I thought I was going to put some Funky Town on the cup. I ended up not putting Funky Town on the cup. I just didn't like it with how light the cup colors are. Funky Town is like a holographic silver. It's super awesome, but it just wasn't really flowing with what I had going on. So I used the Paradise. It's like a chunky and fine mixture. It's really light colored, and the Paradise from Glitter Bay. And I just really lightly sprinkled it all over the cup. Just kind of just fluffed it and dropped it and just randomly on the cup. So after that, I decided to take another Glitter Bay glitter. It's called Dream On. It's a white, kind of iridescent glitter. And I did the exact same thing that I had done with the Paradise glitter. And I just kind of dusted the cup with it. I just kind of sprinkled it out of my fingers, kind of fluffed it in the air, and let it just kind of fall naturally on the cup as it spins. And don't forget to get the bottom. When I do the bottom, I kind of hold some of the glitter in front of the bottom and just kind of blow it on there because I want it to dust it. I don't want it clumped up or anything like that. So I let the tumbler spin for about 4 hours or so, and it is time for its final coat of epoxy. And once again, we are going to be using Tumblerpoxy epoxy so that we've got a super smooth glass-like finish. And for this layer, we mixed up about 20 milliliters of epoxy, and I'm just going to put it on the cup. So for this last coat of Tumblerpoxy epoxy, we are going to put it on the same way that we have put all of our other coats of epoxy on. Just get a good solid coat on there, get good coverage, and then once you've got it all over the cup, you're going to I use my pointer finger. I start at the bottom of the cup and I work my way up, and that's going to help eliminate any micro bubbles, and it's going to get the epoxy really smooth. And I'm going to top it off with my blowtorch. Just hit it with the torch real quick. Don't hang out, don't dilly-dally, just get it done, hit it with the torch, and let it spin. Leave it alone, let it spin until it is dry. And there you have it. Look at this beautiful Valentine's Day tumbler. I really hope you enjoyed this Valentine's Day Peekaboo tumbler tutorial. And if you found it helpful, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to me for more tutorials. All products used in this video are linked down in the description box below, so be sure to check it out. I hope y'all have a wonderful Valentine's Day, and y'all take care. Bye.